Hey y'all, welcome to NPR. Today we'll be talking about the political ramifications. Oh wait, wrong show. Hey y'all, welcome to Art with Mackenzie. Today we'll be doing things a little different. I've been asked to go over my process of how I arrive from a blank canvas to a finished piece. You may have seen me holding up pictures, and this is where I start. I take measurements on a printed photo and simply scale them up as you see here. For Winter Soldier, I multiplied each measurement by 5.19. I started using washes before I start painting. A wash is simply a little acrylic paint with a lot of water. I'm not sure of the ratios, I just keep adding water until the paint sticks, but doesn't run. I do this to fill in tiny gaps of the canvas. This stops those pesky white dots from peeking through. From there I use a 24-inch and a 48-inch T-square and mark the measurements I had on the paper onto the canvas. I wasn't intending on doing Winter Soldier just yet, but I had a request I couldn't say no to. My buddy Tuna asked me to do Winter Soldier next. Tuna was technically my tank driver for 2 years in the Army and while we deployed to Iraq. But he's much more than that. He's my friend and my brother. He helped keep me alive and sane while we lived outside the wire. So I'll do anything for him and my war pigs, including doing a painting out of order. That sounds like not much, but I'm basically saying I'll do anything for him. You know what? You get the gist. Let's just move back to the painting. The reason I keep things so precise is because I can't freehand an 8 square foot picture. So I take a lot of time getting enough points where I can freehand the rest. The points I choose from the picture are usually corners, areas where shadow meets light, or very obvious features. These reference points make sketching out the drawing much faster. Here are my reference dots and some reference lines along the edge of the painting. They're a bit hard to see, and to be honest, sometimes I don't remember what they're referencing, but when I start sketching it out, it all comes together. Now it's just a fun game of connect the dots. I'm not a schooled artist. There may be easier ways to do this, and if you know any, leave them down in the comments below. What I'm doing isn't really that hard. Anyone can do this. Rarely do I have any paintings with straight lines, but when I do, I like to use a ruler. If you wanted to make this painting yourself, you absolutely could. Sure, I've been drawing and sketching my whole life, so for the past years, I've formed my own technique, and I know what needs to be done. But when I attack a project, I'm not thinking to myself, oh, I should use this technique here, and then move on to this other fancy technique here. I'm basically figuring it out along the way. But painting is pretty simple. You put paint on a brush, and then you put it on a canvas. The more you do it, the better you'll get, and then you'll form your own unique form of painting. I'll give you some tips and tricks of the trade along the way to help elevate your art. The hardest part of painting isn't technique, it's wondering what colors do I use. I'll go over a little bit of the paints I use over the next few videos to get a sense of how I do it. But you can use any colors you want. It's art. Do whatever you want. I use a Titan Mars Pale and Raw Umber to get a sense of future colors. I use the Raw Umber for other areas I know will basically be that color, like this hair. I use a mix of carbon black, neutral gray, and zinc white for Winter Soldier's face mask. While that dries, I work on the sky background using cyan blue and titanium white. I just mix them until I think they match what I want. I notice the blue is too blue. Skies have all kinds of pollution in them, so I use a Titan buff to add a tan-like hue to my sky. And then a little more titanium white, because I don't want the sky to look cartoonish. It's always good to paint from the back of the painting to the front. My portraits are mostly the face, but here I need hair to be in front of the sky, and it's always easier painting from background to foreground. I like starting off with outlines that help me define areas, and then I move on to those defined areas because it's just easier that way and it gives me a sense of progress. My first lesson in art came from my father when I was about 5. I said I wanted to draw something and he simply said, "Draw what you see. If there's a vertical line, draw a vertical line. If it's at an angle, just match that angle." That applies to all my art, even color. If the colors I'm seeing are shades of blue and violet, I simply paint those colors where I see them. For me, what's easy for me, I paint a basic color everywhere I know that color is generally going to be. If you wanted to paint this and just knock out the picture perfectly, have at it. The way I do it is I get to see what colors I'm going to need. If I'm a little off, I can make that adjustment when I really go for it. When I do go for it, I apply the 2 best techniques for realistic art. If you watch my video on how to paint a realistic eye, you should know this. If you don't, why haven't you seen my video tutorial on painting an eye? Jeez, get with the program. I shouldn't even tell you. I should just make you watch that video. Nah, I'll go ahead and tell you. The 2 things for realism are contrast and detail. The more I paint, the more contrast and detail I add. Here's that detail I'm talking about. Sometimes there's a fabric pattern that's easy to duplicate. Here, it's not so easy. You can't paint what you see if you're not really sure what you're looking at. So, as with large paintings, I look at the picture from a distance to see a general pattern. Then when I paint the details, I don't try to paint the picture, I paint it until it tricks the eye into seeing what I want it to see, and it matches the picture. I'm back with my trusty ruler painting the air holes, the mouth holes, breathing holes. No, breathing holes are the mouth and the nose. I'm painting the mask holes, the mask holes. Again, using a ruler to make sure I get them right. Otherwise, it'll throw the whole painting off. I'm usually pretty good at painting hair on normal-sized portraits, but this hair is 2 feet wide, and each strand of hair is like 1/8 of an inch thick. So I'm still learning how to paint hair, but just like the fabric, I don't need to paint each strand of hair. I just have to paint it to where it tricks the eye into thinking you're seeing a lot of strands of hair. Okay, well here I'm painting each strand. That's only because he has a few strands blowing across his face. Here I'm deploying the second technique of realism, detail. And while it looks fast on time-lapse, it actually took quite a long time to finish. But them's the bricks when you're shooting for a realistic portrait. Just adding some detail. And more detail. Oh my God, so much detail. For the hair, I use a combination of carbon black, burnt umber, light burnt umber, raw sienna, Titan buff, and titanium white. And now it's just a matter of putting the right paint in the right spot to make it look the way I want. I use a light burnt umber wash to darken up Winter Soldier's forehead because the sun is just behind him and it's casting a shadow on his face. And here it is, the completed final piece of Winter Soldier. Thanks again to my buddy Tuna for suggesting him. This was a fun paint to do. And if any of you out there have a favorite character you want to see me paint, put it in the comment section below. And if you want to see more of these, remember to like and subscribe so I can keep doing them. Thanks, y'all.